guitars. Let's go build some junk. You may or may not have noticed, you probably noticed, last couple episodes we have not had good audio because, as it turns out, the battery on my stupid lapel mic ran down. I can't imagine what the hell a lapel mic needs a battery for, but so we should have that fixed. The plan today, I want to plane our surface, and hopefully, well, also plane our the surface of our head, and possibly cut the profile today. That'd be nice. Problem with that, the jig I've got, well, actually, neck blink in general. The giant multi-$1,000 table saw that I inherited from my dad, the blade doesn't come up enough to cut all the way through the neck blank. At least last time I tried was when we had more angle on the headstock. So I need to reevaluate and see. Add to that half-inch jig, and I did it once, and it didn't cut all the way through the butt or the end of the headstock, so I had to do some crazy stuff afterwards to clean that up. Most of the time we've done this on the little portable table saw that I've got, which A, is scary as hell. B, I have to set up somewhere and it's cold as hell today. And C, I don't really think the fence on it is quite as reliable as the big monster, which I know is just as square as it can be. We could go back to the good old days when we would cut the profile on the bandsaw and then, spend hours trying to plane to keep it nice and square and get it flat and stay at dimension, which just doesn't sound exciting. I would rather not do that. So we're gonna see what happens. I need to put it on the jig, go look at the table saw, and see how things look. But honestly, I'm still thinking, even if it doesn't cut all the way through, cleaning that up after the fact would be preferable in the long run to the alternatives. So I think that's what we're going to try to do. Besides trying to do it on the bandsaw, it's Wenge, which makes it really hard to see the lines. The other problem with that method was I would have to try to draw my profile on this surface, which was never fun. So, yeah. $64th at a time. Just like that, we're done. This is going to take a while. I guess this qualifies as a bonehead. To get this through all the, well, down to actual wood on all the stripes, all nice and flat and square, that put our nut line like about there. Which is about a 1/4 inch back down from where it should be, which, you know, should be right over the volute, whatever. I mean, functionally, a volute doesn't really serve much purpose in my build because the truss rod access port is going to be down here. So the channel will come up to about here and it won't have extra deepness there or anything. And normally that volute is to add some strength right where you're going to have this big chunk of missing material for the truss rod access. So it doesn't really make a difference, but it's going to look weird. Okay, so a possible solution is to add material back to the top of this. Okay, now what I'm thinking is we're going to have a dark fretboard, and I would like for the binding to be red heart and be separated from the wenge of the neck with maple veneer. So to make that theme kind of follow through, we could do a maple veneer and a thin piece of red heart, just enough to build this back up so that our platform, that'll move our nut line back a little, and it doesn't take a whole lot of thickness to move that quite a bit. So I'm kind of thinking just a maple veneer and a very thin piece of red heart. And then I had already planned on the head cap being wenge and ash, possibly, you know, having some type of curve like this in it. I want the majority of it to be wenge, or at least the part where the logo is going to go, because God knows, you know, carving in an inlay into wenge is preferable. Well, it allows me to have a white inlay, or, you know, white-ish. Ash or maple, probably maple. So we're going to do a head plate, but it might be a little thinner than normal. But anyway, because of this foobar, I think we want to prep a real thin piece of red heart to cap that with. And then, like I normally do, your fretboard will go on, and then the head cap will go on there. So that's what I'm thinking. We're going to play like I meant to do this, and it's a design feature. Just to look at the depth, we're more than good at the head end, all the way through up till about here. So the last end of the button. That'll be easy to clean up after the fact. So I think we're good to go with the trusty old Slim 2 Neck Taper Jig 9000. We got a huge chunk of red heart left over. Once we get profile cut, we need to glue ears on anyway. At that point, then we can start dealing with this. So, and this isn't enough material, but I mean, it's so much fatter than we need it. We'll book match and then thin it down from there. Problem for a later date. I have to make some guesses about where our nut line is going to be. Actually, I want the nut itself, the whole width of the nut. Now, I usually I want to use a 1/4 inch thick nut. I want the center of that right over the point of the volume. So right now, about 1/8 of an inch behind where it currently is. Yeah, that ain't much at all. I have these holes so I can try to make sure that everything's lined up perfectly on the center. I can't really know that for sure just yet. So what I'm going to do next is try to measure from both sides. That end looks pretty good. That end does not. And now it does. Now just for fun we'll test again here. Right in the center of that hole. And it is centered. Left just a little tiny bit of extra space, maybe a 1/16. That's nerve-wracking shit. Very little to clean up there. Now, I specifically set it up with just a hair of extra room there, and it looked like it cut just flush to the jig. So, it's a good thing we didn't set it up tighter. That makes me a little nervous about our dimensions. They are absolutely spot on perfect, which is a little bit of a problem. Would have been good to just have just the tiniest little bit of extra so we can, because we need to plane that a little. But it looks to be a pretty damn clean cut, so I think we can get away with the tiniest bit of planing. Yeah, because that's just right at perfect. 1 5/8 at the nut, exactly. It's not going to kill anything for it to be a little bit thinner than that. Those are the dimensions I usually go for. But I mean, it's not exactly a hard and fast rule. Well, I pretty much had already thought about doing a tune-o-matic anyway, and we'll get one where we can set the grooves in the saddles. So, because we may need to tighten up the string spacing just a little tiny bit. Hindsight, 2020 and all. I wish I had to set us up with just a little more extra room. I have two offcuts that are about this size, and we can cut it down the middle and then cut it to about the thickness we need, which should be 5/8. So, playing this real quick, the tiniest bit, and get some ear material cut so we can get it on there. Oh, she's gonna be pretty though. Yeah! I made some small little marks so I can get these placed exactly where I wanted them. Wenge is so damn tight and dense, I'm constantly amazed that it can absorb glue at all. But somehow it works. Now with the ears, I'm usually shooting for mounting them where they are just a tiny bit proud of our surface, just so I can make sure lower would be bad. So a little proud is easy to deal with. Shy is not good. And I want to put just a little bit of pressure at the moment, just to help it tack up a little bit while we get the other one ready. I say that. What I'm shooting for is flush, but if any variation at all, I want it proud. And we are really close, but a tiny bit proud. And that's the way, This piece, since we cut it, I didn't clean that side up. We're putting that chewed up side down, since the back of all of this is chewed up already. We had clean plain sides on the outside of that piece, which are now the inside of these. So the top and the inside are nice and clean. Like where we are. Mickey Mouse clamps off. All right, we're good. All right, in the meantime, I cut just a chunk off of this poor thing, and I planed this edge, jointed this edge, because looking at the center line on my headstock template, we have plenty of room to book match that and turn it into a little piece, a little sandwich piece. Book match is a little much because I think we need a pretty thin little line, so I think ultimately we need to be around that, like, I'm really thinking an eighth of an inch is probably more than we need, but I don't know that for sure. Well, we're going to cut way outside the lines anyway, so this part I'm not struggling with. I'm wondering how we could possibly test how much room that gives us for the nut before we actually commit it. But I'm thinking ahead at problems we're not at yet. So good enough. Okay, well, next steps. I would normally look at digging out a truss rod, but I don't have a truss rod yet, so I guess it's about time I start ordering hardware. Some of those hardware decisions I haven't made yet. Some of them I can't afford yet. But I want to put some high quality stuff in there. But truss rod, I need to get that ordered pretty quick so we can move forward. I can't really, well, we can't really do that until we know exactly where the nut is and where, well, we got to get this head plate or head surface situation ironed out, and that will determine where our actual final nut location is, and that we need to know before we can dig out the truss rods. So I guess we're kind of at a standstill at the moment. I could start cutting a fretboard. I don't feel like it right now. It's cold as hell, and to do that I would have to open the garage and get the thickness planer out, and we don't need it yet. So I got my little red heart pieces laminating. Next time we can get that thickness down and see how that works out, and what that does for us in moving the nut line just a little. But just a little. We just need just a little. And I'm trying to picture how it's going to look with okay, now the fretboard I'm expecting red heart binding with just a maple veneer between it and the neck. Now a lot of times I wind up doing a head plate that's the same material as the binding, and you know, it kind of looks like that theme at least goes through. So when I leave just a little shaving of fretboard material under that binding, I always look at it later and go, damn it, I should have put a veneer under the head plate. So I'm kind of looking to make that happen this time, but if the binding is Red Heart and this little plate is much thinner but still continues, I'm hoping it looks good. I'm not entirely sure what that's going to look like, but unfortunately we do need to build this head up just a little bit to move that nut slightly, but we really don't need much. But anyway, this gives us the opportunity to do a veneer, so we get in the continuation from, you know, the veneer under the binding to the veneer under the head plate, and they should be in line. I mean, they have to be. So I guess a thin layer of Red Heart on top of that will kind of continue that motif. And then, you know, ash and Wenge head plate. And I don't know how that's going to go out yet. I probably ought to do some drawing and try to figure out. Anyway, I think that's it for today, even though it wasn't a huge amount of work. I mean, it's progress. It's, like I said, it's cold as hell. We're inching up on Christmas. It's in like 2 weeks. Unbelievable. As shitty as 2020 is, it's flown by in a lot of ways. Or maybe every year is starting to. Anyway, later in the week I'll be pushing out old, you know, some footage on that old build. Let's keep an eye out for that. I'll be back next week, hopefully, with some more to do here. Check out the other guys and use what you have, use what you've got 2020 challenge. Lockdown Guitar 2020. Just look for that. And I'll meet you back here next week. Stay safe, everybody. Have a good week. Thanks for joining me. If you like what we're doing, if you're digging it, like and subscribe. Catch you next time.